Have you ever woken up one morning and felt like time has slipped away, like the days, weeks, even years passed, yet nothing in your life has truly shifted? The dreams you once carried feel far off. Your goals have quietly faded into the background, and the version of life you imagined seems more like a fantasy than something within reach. Instead of living, you find yourself stuck moving through the motions, waiting for change that never really arrives. Why does this happen? Why do some people take bold steps forward while others remain caught in hesitation and endless waiting? Today we're going to uncover a silent force that might be quietly sabotaging your happiness, your success, and your potential without you even noticing. That force is passivity, the habit of standing still while life continues moving ahead. It's invisible, deceptive, and incredibly destructive, and yet most people never escape it. But here's the difference: you can. Because by the end of this video, you'll not only recognize how passivity has been shaping your life, but also discover the most powerful way to break free. And trust me, the final insight is one you won't want to miss. It could be the exact key to unlocking a future filled with confidence, action, and unstoppable momentum. Now let's be clear, passivity doesn't show up with alarms or flashing lights. In fact, at first it often disguises itself as patience, carefulness, or simply taking your time. But underneath, it's a slow-acting poison. It convinces you to stay in jobs, routines, or relationships that don't fulfill you. It allows fear to make your decisions for you. It whispers that waiting is safer, even though deep down, you know action is the only way forward. But where does this passivity really come from? Why do some people break out and charge ahead in life, while others stay frozen, unable to move? Psychologists have studied this for decades. One of the most famous explanations comes from Martin Seligman, known as the father of positive psychology. He introduced the idea of learned helplessness, a powerful insight into how people slip into passivity. In one experiment, he placed dogs in situations where they repeatedly faced negative outcomes they couldn't control. Over time, those dogs stopped trying to escape even when a path to freedom was right in front of them. The same thing happens to us. After repeated failure, rejection, or discouragement, we begin to believe our efforts don't matter. That belief seeps into our mindset, shapes our behavior, and soon defines our reality. But failure isn't the only culprit. One of the most dangerous causes of passivity is far more subtle: it's comfort. Comfort, it feels safe, warm, familiar. But in reality, it can be one of the most dangerous traps you'll ever fall into. Think about it. How easy is it to slip into a routine even when that routine doesn't fulfill you? The human brain is wired for safety and predictability. Back in ancient times, this instinct kept our ancestors alive. Sticking to familiar paths meant avoiding danger, predators, or risks that could end their lives. But in today's world, that same survival mechanism often works against us. Instead of protecting us, comfort holds us back. We become attached to the familiar even when it isn't what we truly want. Days quietly blur into weeks, weeks slide into months, and before we know it, years have gone by while we've stayed in the same place. This is the true danger of passivity. It doesn't feel like a threat. There are no alarms, no flashing warnings. Instead, it operates in silence. It whispers, "There's still time. You can start tomorrow. Wait until the conditions are perfect." But here's the brutal truth: there is no perfect moment. There's only now. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to act. So let's ask a deeper question. What's the real cost of living this way? What happens when hesitation and inaction take control of your life? The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, gave us a profound answer in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He argued that the deepest drive in human beings isn't pleasure, as Sigmund Freud once believed. It isn't power, as Friedrich Nietzsche suggested either. It's meaning. When we lack meaning, we drift through life in emptiness, stagnation, and despair. And nothing strips life of meaning faster than passivity. Just think about it. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Was it while waiting, hesitating, or avoiding challenges? Or was it when you stepped outside your comfort zone, took a risk, and pursued something that mattered to you? Meaning isn't something that magically appears. It's something we create through action, by taking steps toward growth, risk, and contribution. That's why staying passive doesn't just keep you stuck, it actively erases the sense of purpose that makes life worth living. But here's the puzzling part. If passivity is so destructive, why do so many of us keep falling into it? Why do we stay stuck even when we know we should move forward? The answer might surprise you, and once you see it clearly, everything will start to change. Picture this: you're standing at the edge of a decision, knowing that taking action could completely change your life. But instead of moving forward, you hesitate. You tell yourself you need more time, that the timing isn't right, that you'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow slips into next week fades into next year, and before you know it, nothing has changed. This is the invisible grip of passivity at work, and it's the very reason so many people stay stuck in lives that don't truly fulfill them. So why do we let this happen? What hidden force keeps us locked in hesitation, even when we're painfully aware that change is necessary? The answer lies in something psychologists call the comfort trap. At first, comfort feels like a blessing. Who doesn't want to feel safe, secure, and at ease? But here's the paradox: the more comfortable we get, the less likely we are to take the risks that growth demands. Comfort feels good in the short term, but often robs us of long-term fulfillment. Think about it. Have you ever stayed in a job you disliked simply because it felt easier than starting over? Have you ever remained in a relationship that no longer brought happiness just because the thought of change felt overwhelming? That's the comfort trap in action. It convinces you that staying put is safer than stepping into the unknown. But here's the truth: the biggest regrets in life are rarely the mistakes we make. They're the chances we never take. Neuroscience helps explain this. Our brains are hardwired to avoid uncertainty. For our ancestors, uncertainty often meant danger. Better to stick to what's predictable than risk death. But in the modern world, that wiring backfires. Instead of avoiding threats, we avoid opportunities. Instead of running from danger, we end up running from growth. And here's the harsh reality: no one in history achieved greatness by staying comfortable. Every meaningful achievement required confronting discomfort, uncertainty, and fear. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck isn't intelligence, luck, or talent. It's the willingness to take action despite the fear. This leads us to one of the most important questions of all: how do you actually break free from passivity's grip? How do you stop waiting and start moving forward with purpose? The answer lies in a set of simple but powerful strategies that anyone can use. And the first one may be far easier than you think. So how do you break free from passivity and finally move into action? One of the most practical and powerful methods comes from author and speaker Mel Robbins. She introduced something called the 5-second rule. It's incredibly simple, but it works because it interrupts the cycle of hesitation before your brain talks you out of doing what you know you need to do. Here's how it works: the moment you feel an instinct to act on a goal, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you move. No debating, no overthinking, no giving fear time to creep in. You simply take action. That tiny moment of movement can be enough to shift your momentum completely. And the science behind it makes sense. The human brain loves to keep us safe and comfortable. When we hesitate, even for a few seconds, our mind kicks in with all the reasons to delay. What if you fail? What if you're not ready? What if people judge you? The 5-second rule cuts that off before it gains power. It forces you to act before doubt sets in. But breaking free from passivity requires more than just one tool. Another critical piece is shifting your focus from motivation to discipline. Many people believe they need to feel motivated before they can start. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. If you wait until you feel ready, you may be waiting forever. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care about feelings. Discipline means doing what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. It's choosing action based on your goals, not your mood. And here's the good news: discipline isn't about massive overnight change. It's built in small, consistent steps. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it this way: success is rarely about giant leaps. It's about tiny daily improvements that compound over time. If you improve by just 1% every day, those small gains add up to extraordinary results. Passivity works in the opposite direction. Small moments of hesitation, small delays, small excuses, they also compound, creating a life of regret. And here's something most people don't realize: passivity doesn't only show up in big life decisions. It sneaks into the small moments of every single day. It's the pause before speaking up in a meeting, the delay before starting a workout, the endless scrolling instead of working on something meaningful. Every moment of hesitation reinforces the habit of inaction making it harder to change. That's why awareness is the first step. You need to recognize where passivity shows up in your life. Ask yourself, what am I postponing? Where am I letting fear or comfort dictate my choices? And what could my life look like if I stopped hesitating and started acting right now? Before we uncover the most powerful way to break free from passivity, there's one more hidden layer you need to understand. It's something that quietly traps millions of people, keeping them stuck in cycles of hesitation. And surprisingly, it's not fear, laziness, or even a lack of motivation. It's something much more deceptive: identity paralysis. Identity paralysis happens when you unconsciously define yourself by your current limitations instead of your potential. It's the belief that this is just the way I am, or I've always been like this. And once you accept that as truth, change feels impossible. Think about it: if you see yourself as someone who lacks discipline, how likely are you to build a new habit and stick with it? If you believe you're not a natural leader, will you step up when confidence is required? If you've convinced yourself that you're bad at making decisions, will you ever truly take control of your future? Your identity shapes your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. That's why so many people remain passive. It's not because they can't change, but because they don't believe they can. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on mindset uncovered something profound: people generally operate from either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Those with a fixed mindset believe their abilities, intelligence, and character traits are set in stone. They avoid challenges because failure feels like proof of their limits. Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset believe they can improve with effort, learning, and practice. They embrace challenges, seeing failure not as a verdict, but as a stepping stone to growth. Here's the critical insight: passivity thrives inside a fixed mindset. If you believe your circumstances and traits define you forever, you'll never act to change them. But the moment you shift to a growth mindset, you take away passivity's power. So how do you make this shift? The answer lies in what James Clear calls identity-based action. True transformation doesn't come just from setting goals. It comes from redefining who you believe you are. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" start asking, "Who do I want to become?" Want to be more confident? Start by acting like a confident person would. Want to be disciplined? Begin making small choices a disciplined person would make. Every action you take is a vote for the identity you're building. Over time, those votes stack up until you no longer just try to be that person. You're that person. This is why action must come before motivation. Most people believe they need to feel inspired first, but the truth is the opposite: taking action. Even the smallest step creates the motivation you're waiting for. And once that shift in identity begins, momentum builds naturally. But identity is only part of the story. There's another powerful reason people remain stuck in passivity, and it has everything to do with emotions. You see, taking action almost always stirs up discomfort. It can trigger fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of leaving behind the version of yourself you've grown used to. Neuroscience reveals something fascinating here. Your brain processes psychological threats the same way it processes physical ones. When you consider stepping outside your comfort zone, your brain interprets that uncertainty as danger. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for survival instincts, lights up, and suddenly you feel resistance, anxiety, even panic. It's not that your brain is trying to sabotage you, it's trying to protect you. But in protecting you from uncertainty, it also keeps you trapped. Here's the key: you don't need to eliminate fear before you act. That's the mistake most people make. They wait until they feel ready, but readiness never comes. The real secret is learning to act while you're afraid. Every time you take action in spite of fear, you send your brain a new message. This discomfort isn't dangerous. I can handle this. Over time, you build what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to move forward even when emotions are uncomfortable. And just like a muscle, the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Think of it like training at the gym. The first time you lift a heavy weight, it feels almost impossible. But if you keep at it rep after rep, day after day, your muscles adapt and grow stronger. The same is true for your ability to handle discomfort. Each small act of courage builds resilience, rewiring your brain to see challenge not as danger, but as an opportunity to grow. So when fear shows up, don't treat it as a stop sign. Treat it as proof that you're moving in the right direction. Because fear often points to the very thing you need to do to grow. And every time you step forward anyway, you weaken passivity's grip just a little more. Now, if passivity is tied to mindset identity and emotional resistance, what's the ultimate way to break free? The answer is both simple and radical, and once you embrace it, you'll never see your life the same way again. The ultimate way to break free from passivity is to embrace something called radical responsibility. And it's exactly what it sounds like: taking complete ownership of your life. No more waiting for the right time. No more blaming your past, your circumstances, or other people. No more excuses. Radical responsibility means accepting fully and completely that your future depends on the choices you make or the choices you avoid starting right now. For many people, this is a tough truth to swallow, because once you accept radical responsibility, every justification for inaction disappears. But here's the flip side. It's also the most liberating truth you'll ever embrace. Why? Because the moment you realize no one is coming to save you, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for life to change, and instead you start changing your life. Now, here's where people often get it wrong. They think responsibility means having everything figured out from the start. They believe they need a perfect plan, absolute confidence, and 100% certainty before they take action. But that's another trap. The truth is, simple action creates clarity, not the other way around. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, once shared his decision-making philosophy. He said, if you wait until you have 100% of the information, you'll always be too late. Instead, he aimed to make decisions with about 70% of the data available. Why? Because action leads to learning, and learning leads to better decisions. Successful people aren't the ones who always know exactly what to do. They're the ones who move forward anyway, adjust along the way, and learn through doing. Think about it. Every step you take gives you new information. You figure out what works and what doesn't. You gain experience you could never have gained by sitting still, planning endlessly, or waiting for certainty. That's the power of radical responsibility. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You create progress through action. And yes, this approach means you will face failure. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a necessary part of it. Every mistake, every setback, every wrong turn is simply feedback. It's information. And it's often the fastest path to growth. So the real question becomes, are you willing to take ownership of your life and step forward even without guarantees? Because that one choice, the choice to embrace responsibility, might just be the single most powerful decision you'll ever make. But let's be honest, failure is one of the biggest reasons people stay passive. The fear of messing up feels so overwhelming that doing nothing seems safer than trying and risking defeat. Yet here's the truth. Most people never realize failure isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Thomas Edison, when asked about his many attempts to invent the light bulb, famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset is exactly what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. They don't see failure as proof they're not good enough. They see it as valuable feedback, as progress in disguise. Think about it. Every person you admire, every innovator, every leader, every artist, none of them reached success by avoiding failure. They reached it because they were willing to stumble, learn, and try again. The only true failure is refusing to try at all. So how do you apply this in your own life? Start by removing the idea that failure defines you. Failure is not who you are. It's simply information about what doesn't work. Data that helps you improve your next attempt. When you shift your perspective this way, fear loses its grip. Here's another critical piece. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is not the starting point, it's the result of action. Too many people sit around waiting for inspiration to strike, not realizing that momentum builds only after you take that first step. Action fuels motivation, not the other way around. Second, start lowering the barrier to action. A lot of us stay stuck because we imagine we need to take massive, life-changing leaps. But progress rarely works like that. It comes from small, consistent steps forward. Want to start a new project? Work on it for just 5 minutes today. Want to build a new habit? Begin with the smallest version possible. Over time, those tiny steps compound into lasting change. Third, commit to making decisions faster. Overthinking is one of passivity's best friends. The longer you hesitate, the louder doubt becomes. Set yourself a rule, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or even 1 day, then make your decision and move forward. Because every delay strengthens passivity, but every choice strengthens momentum. At the end of the day, life rewards action. Opportunities don't wait. Time doesn't pause. And your future is being shaped right now by the choices you make. The question is, will you let fear of failure hold you back, or will you use it as fuel to propel you forward? Here's something most people never stop to consider. Passivity doesn't only shape the big picture of your life, it shows up in the tiniest everyday choices. And those small choices matter far more than you think. It's the hesitation before raising your hand in a meeting, the delay before lacing up your shoes for a workout, the endless minutes lost scrolling on your phone instead of working on something meaningful. Each of those little pauses might feel harmless in the moment, but together they form a powerful pattern, and patterns create identity. This is why self-awareness is non-negotiable. You need to start noticing where and when passivity sneaks into your day. Ask yourself, what am I consistently postponing? Where do I allow comfort or fear to make my decisions for me? Even more importantly, what would my life look like if I stopped hesitating and started acting? And here's the interesting part. Small intentional actions in these everyday moments can completely shift your trajectory. Speaking up once builds courage to speak up again. One quick workout builds momentum for the next. Closing your phone to focus for 10 minutes builds the muscle of discipline. These micro actions are like votes for your future self. Each one says, this is who I am becoming. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need systems to back it up. James Clear in Atomic Habits reminds us that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. In other words, you can't just rely on willpower or hope. You need structure. That could mean setting specific deadlines using accountability partners, or designing your environment to make action easier and passivity harder. Think about it. If your guitar is in the closet, how often will you practice? But if it's sitting on a stand in your living room, you're far more likely to pick it up. If junk food is in the pantry, you'll eat it. If fresh fruit is on the counter, you'll grab it instead. Small tweaks in your environment can create big shifts in your behavior. So don't just fight passivity in your head, outsmart it in your daily life. Build tiny habits, structure your environment, and make acting the default instead of waiting. Because the more you act, the more natural it becomes. And soon, what once felt impossible becomes automatic. So now we've come full circle. We've explored how passivity hides behind comfort, fear, and even your own identity. We've seen how it drains meaning from life, how it convinces you to wait for the perfect moment, and how it steals opportunities that never come back. But we've also uncovered the antidote: awareness, identity-based action, discipline, and above all, radical responsibility. Here's the truth: breaking free from passivity doesn't require a miracle. It doesn't require luck or talent or waiting until you feel ready. What it requires is a choice to stop postponing, a choice to act even when you're afraid, a choice to step forward even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. And the best part, action builds on itself. Each small step forward fuels the next one. Each act of courage creates momentum. Each moment of discipline strengthens your identity. Over time, you stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start becoming someone who moves, creates, and grows. Remember this: your past does not define your future. The mistakes, the hesitation, the years you feel you've lost, they don't have to decide what happens next. What matters is the decision you make today. Will you keep waiting, overthinking, and letting passivity run your life? Or will you take control and step into the version of yourself you were meant to become? Life will always reward action. Opportunities appear for those who move. Growth comes to those who dare. Meaning belongs to those who create it. So the real question is simple: what will you do now? Because in the end, your future isn't written by chance, it's written by choice. And that choice, more than anything else, will determine the life you live.